Good morning from Silicon Valley again. This is Marco Marianucci, the CEO of Mind the Bridge. In our quest in understanding the ecosystem of South Korea as one of the most interesting booming ecosystem of scale-ups, today we have the pleasure to talk about support of government agencies, and in particular with one of the most historically present and visible of the government agency, that is Born2Global, and we have the opportunity of having with us Jongkap Kim, the Chief Executive Director of Born2Global.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
Good to see you. So thanks for making this happen and to take the opportunity to spend a few minutes with us. Really, the idea is to use the example of Born2Global as one of the more visible agencies in this case, and the name says that with the scope of giving a global expansion to the most interesting startups of Korea, an agency that has been around since, if I'm correct, 2013. So, you know, it's been testing and promoting Korea at different levels. And so, I mean, to start, why don't you give a little bit more of a high-level definition of what is the agency, what is that related to, what is the, I think the ministry, I think it reports to Ministry of Science. So a little bit of the layout at a high level.
Okay. Before I proceed the introduction of my organization, I want the greeting to the Silicon Valley people again, because it was very unusual to greeting through the like it is online introduction, because say again, so nice to meet you, Silicon Valley, and I missed Silicon Valley still. I was living in the Silicon Valley from 1999 to 2015, so my heart living in the Silicon Valley still. So it's very my personal honor to introduce about the Korean startup ecosystem to the Silicon Valley people. So as you mentioned, the Born2Global Center is name itself. We are focusing on globalization with the deep tech startup. So our mission is 100% globalization only. So that's the big differentiate from other organization, public organization in Korea. And also, especially, we are on the Ministry of Science and ICT, not the Ministry of Commerce or not the Ministry of the Small and Medium Business. That means is we are 100% focused on deep tech only, not just the I don't know what can I say, low tech startup. So that means we are not dealing with the coupon, we are not dealing with the delivery services, something like that, or O2O. If they involve some deep tech technology, then we can take care of that. That's a little difference. And then actually the main reason we set up the Born2Global is as a ministry level, we have an experience, incubation at the Silicon Valley from 1998. So at the time, the Korea getting help from San Jose City. So San Jose City, they helped Korea to set up the incubation, and they transfer their business model or how to nurturing the tech business at the and build into ecosystem. But we realize unless we mix the people to people, globalization is not easy task. So everybody talk about the globalization like export. Something, but that's the maybe it works 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but right now after first industrial revolution, especially AI, we talk about that, then I believe, and our center believe, human to human mixture or nation to nation, industry by industry, startup to startup engagement each other, we call this open collaboration somewhat, then it can be globalized more fast and effectively.
Yeah, and I want to talk about a few of the samples that you put in at work of those integration that goes much deeper than just purely exports, but maybe just also for our listeners that are less accustomed with the ecosystem of Korea. Give us a sense of when really the set of various most active government agencies that support Korea entrepreneurs got started, because 2013 is probably at the beginning of that movement. Is that correct?
Yes. We have a different type of the government initiative to promoting the startup ecosystem building, but I think it's quite very successful. Very successfully they engage and that they help promoting the ecosystem building, and many organizations like over 380 government related organizations involved the startup ecosystem building.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah, so
308.
yeah, huge ecosystem as a government side, and that they spend like yearly $1.5 billion to promoting here and there, startup ecosystem building. But still, relatively, private side is quite a bit, not that much big. 2013, we have a 203 accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have about the 300, over 300 accelerator. But the quality wise is not that much, achieved their initial goal. But still, it's growing, and everybody getting interesting, and they understanding what's the accelerator. Now they distinguish incubation versus accelerating.
Yeah.
And the other area is venture capital.
And fund of fund and support of venture capital as well.
They spend yearly like from starting to $2 billion, now it's $4 billion. Mm-hmm. So it can help the spread out of the ecosystem from the main capital city Seoul to the all rural area in Korea Peninsula.
Yeah, and it's definitely creating. We're going to talk about how efficient that is, but it's definitely creating a movement, and we see as an operator in the market, we see the big difference, right, in quality and quantity. And it's not as the final state, but you can tell that there's progress, and so that's what I think it matters. Maybe we can start describing. Even, is your model just fully subsidized by the ministry, or do you also have, because I've seen that you also offer some consulting, is that a mix between private and public, or typically the model is very straightforward, you get grants and then you need to deploy these grants?
Yeah, very difficult question. We are born as a fully 100% public organization under the Ministry of Science and ICT. And 100% budget came from the Ministry of Science and ICT. But now we try to, now we are transition mode. Mm-hmm. So we try to mix private and public here and there. So our ultimate goal is, even though we starting from the government agency, mm-hmm. they spin up our organization like a private ecosystem player. So so many people talk about it. Korea is a very strong government-driven, the ecosystem, and government also already knows about that. They try to spin up outside to even though they are initiated, but if they successfully established, then it can be some private sector's player. So we are just right now it's a lab. Practice. So we have two sources, the public budget and the private budget.
And we see those typically, actually, those are the most efficient, right? Because you need to be creative, you need to be entrepreneurial yourself. So really preaching or putting in practice what you've been preaching for quite some time. And maybe without giving too much details, but give us a sense of what is the annual budget that you operate, just as a range, so that we understand the size.
Yeah, it's a top secret, but actually, it's not that big money. We are about yearly $10 million. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got it. And you do a long number of projects, and we probably want to have the time to cover them all, but I was very impressed when we first actually we crossed paths a long time ago at the beginning of both of our organizations. But lately, when we spoke, I'm very impressed with the creativity of also of those activities that you're now putting in place to test new markets, and really the cultural integration that goes way beyond just the an internationalization, as you mentioned before. So, but let's start from the basics. So first of all, you have a big space, right? You have a hub. Maybe I think we have a picture just to also get a sense of your hub. That's where you host a whole bunch of different companies, and I believe that you keep filtering the 50 startups are selected in the KOSDAQ startup hub. Is that correct?
Right. So actually, we select the yearly 100 very top innovative tech company. Out of that, they need some space. Then at the time, we provide the space. But space, providing the space is not our main job. That's the complementary. They need some small area to collaboration, or they need to, even though to early stage, they need some space.
Yeah.
So that's why we holding the, huge facility, but that's not our main area.
Yeah. We start from the container, then the container has a lot of content. And I think we have another slide on the basic numbers and metrics. So that gives a sense really more of the ecosystem that you support, that you control. Maybe you want to explain a few of these numbers.
Right. Actually, before I the explain of this number, Born2Global's main philosophy is do not outsourcing. So all program, all capacities should be in-house capacity. So we have some special personnel, which is a legal attorney, patent attorney, or CPA accountant, or marketing expertise, different type of expertise people as an in-house expertise. And we providing daily or case by cases continuous services. So this metrics is our total outcome until the 2021 June. Finally, we got the $1.3 billion investment inducement to our member company. Out of that, about the 60% came from foreign investor, not domestic investor. So that's one of the big proud of that. So that means our member company, client company already validate the global investors. So it can be very prominent area, and we support over 2,600 company already, especially in the overseas cooperation. It means flip over. We support 85 cases. So either two way of the globalization. One way is a flip over. So if they find target area or target region and they commit, then we advise to the company flip over and engage in commitment with that region and do the business from the scratch. So this very successful case came out. And the other ways is if you are not commit that much, then you should find good partner, which will be collaborate with the Korean startup and expand their business globally with the partner, not single candidate. So this is just our metrics, and out of that, most important thing is patent to the global business. Patent protection is a fundamental tool before they get into the global market. So we heavily support to file the PCT filing before they step out the global market. So 914 cases, huge cases for the startup.
So we deal with a number of startups actually that in Korea that have an interesting IP, and obviously one of the things they want to do first when they want to look outside is how patentable is what we have. Do you provide free services for that? Is there a filter where companies that are in the areas that you care about, that is deep tech, as you mentioned, can just apply, and then you support the process of internationalization of patent applications?
Yeah, so we support in-house consultation is free, but if they need more in-depth consultation or they need some signature of the attorney. In that case, so they should pay for it. But our employee not accept the payment, but we hire the different countries' local attorney, and we providing the 20% subsidized and the 80% subsidized to the the consultation, and 20% came from the startup.
Got it.
Yeah.
Great to know. Great to know. And so you created, as you mentioned here, you see the attracted investment. You supported a number of companies that have grown by now. So there are a few unicorns and a few IPOs. I think we also have a slide about this. I think is a good consequential of this. So there are a few names here. Maybe you want to give a couple of examples.
Yes. We established in 2013. At that time, it's just initial stage. And we conclude what's our ultimate goal to support the startup. So we decide it will be an exit. Otherwise, everything is just in progress, stage. So we set the, our ultimate goal is how we promoting helping the company exit. So that's why we success, and year by year we get the achievement like KOSDAQ IPO, and we don't have that much. We don't have yet NASDAQ IPO, but we have a bunch of the serial KOSDAQ IPO, and this year 2 or 3 IPO are waiting, and then one of the very exciting cases is Sandbird, right bottom side.
Yeah.
We flip over. Actually, we're helping that from 2015. 2 years later, we realized the Korean market or some other countries' market is not the fit. So we sending this team to the United States, and just when they stay in Korea, they were staged like a Series A, but when they flip over, everything is reset. So from the seed round, they're starting again, and they selected the Y Combinator. And from that time, now they got the Series B. About the total cumulative investment is like $160 million. So it's a huge success. So now they get into the Korea, one of the target unicorn.
Interesting. So they developed really the market in US through the validation of YC, and then they went back to Korea to do the growth, the second stage of the growth at this day, after the validation.
Yeah, and this is the first unicorn in Korea as a B2B software. So I'm the witness of the Silicon Valley, how the Korean startup playing for the last 20 years. But nobody getting some huge investment from Silicon Valley directly as a B2B software.
Yeah,
this is first time success. So from now on, so many the other relevant startup, they got the promotion, they got the some like excitement. We can do this.
Yeah, that's how the markets change, right? If you start creating success stories. And poster childs, and then people will start, looking at really the profession of serial entrepreneur, and that's where what creates this chain of effects that has been working pretty nicely in Silicon Valley for 80 years. But I think this is really driven by those success stories. I think there is one program in particular. There are this one that we're showing now that we have seen lately. And I would like you to describe it because it's really an interesting mix of geographies that you are working on with the idea of creating joint ventures. So why don't you describe this, Korea Latin America Startup Fund?
Sure. Actually, the Korea Latin America relationship is starting from 4 years ago. And you are living in Silicon Valley. So everybody talk about Silicon Valley. And when I starting my own startup, not only the Korean startup, but the other countries the same. The ultimate goal is to put the flag on the Silicon Valley. So other than that, Silicon Valley, where's it go? And what others, nations relationship between startup to startup? That's our initial point. So we proposed, Inter-America Development Bank people they support the Latin America ecosystem, but just they too much close set. They play each other by themselves. So why don't we put on the Latin America ecosystem player and work together and make some bigger pie of the global business to get out the Latin America region. So they need some globalization also, I think. And it works to discuss, and then we develop the fund, which is now we are working on the making the equity fund, like a very small amount, $50 million between Korea and IDB. And the other fund is a grant fund to promoting joint venture. So which is initial starting point is a Korean deep tech startup and the Latin American deep tech startup, or not necessarily have a deep tech, but if they have an operation capability in Latin America, we try to matching up, introducing by themselves. If they agree to work together, we support on that with a small amount of grant, like 150K. And if they successfully launch their product at the Latin America area, then equity fund will follow to support the scale up. So this is a very simple scheme, and it works. We've been working, even the Corona-19, we've been working for the last 10 months. So last week, we announced 5 couples.
Oh my gosh. And so that's through all these matching events that you've been doing during last year.
Yeah.
And when you say couple, I mean, the joint ventures is long term, right? So typically with the potential of really merging the entities. But before that, I think what matters today is the level of collaboration. So if there is any integration that happened and integration of capabilities.
We review about 98 Korean company and 80 something Latin American startup, and very long, tired process, day-to-day matching process. Out of that, 10 companies selected, 5 couple. So country like Mexico, Chile, Argentina, Colombia, I don't know the other country. So 5 countries startup and the 5 Korean startup. So now they almost make some contract process. Then we're gonna support to helping the accelerating their joint business, not the single different company's business. And IDB will support deploy their services into the Latin America all region. It's a very interesting model. And finally, we got the 5 couple, and then we try to expand this initiative to the World Bank or Asian Development Bank or African Development Bank, the same scheme. So different region, your country startup working with not only the Korean startup, but the US startup and the Japan and the UK or German. We don't care about that. Just any, the top tech company, if they want interesting, then we can try to match up and make them work together. That's our philosophy, and that's I think that we're helping the globalization.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic, I think, target, and it's definitely fresh and new. I haven't seen anything similar, at least at that scale. What's the counterpart in the continent there at the Latin America? Is IDB really with the hands-on in the filtering from the different countries? Is on their side?
Yes, IDB and CABE, the Caribbean area, the two organizations will support us, and now that we can reach out to different individual country by country also. But the government and the bank, they support like a credential and selection screening, something like that.
So if somebody is interested in evaluating those opportunities, where should they find the information?
Born2Global, the website.
The website. Got it. Okay, we'll send it there.
Okay.
Fantastic. Just to think about, future development as well. I think one of the major competitions that we see out there now that we look at a global ecosystem is between different regions around the world. They try to be magnet of the most interesting startups and to host them in their region, maybe even for a period of time, not necessarily just to move there, but just to create that excitement, that the globalization that brings a lot of exchange and from exchange innovation. Who do you think is ahead in that game? So who do you see it as a leader, whether it's a country or region, or any highlights that you have witnessed?
Of course, it's the United States. It's a number one place. But in Asia region, I think the Singapore has a very the effective system, and mainly they can communicate in English very freely.
Yeah,
that's the biggest advantage as an Asian country.
Yeah.
But in Korea, not that many, the company can freely speak in English that much. In our portfolio, about the 65% they can speak English, but still 35% they have a little hurdle to express their idea or something like that. So Singapore has a good system and a very well open, all different type of the culture and the system. So I think that that's there will be Singapore is ahead of the Korea, but I don't think other system. Yeah.
I mean, we deal with a few. We know that, for example, in the Middle East, there are a few countries that are pretty aggressive in trying to attract, at least for a period of time. So, the Emirates are pretty attentive in that area. But it's definitely, I think, we see that is a race that is starting accelerating now, and people are starting understanding what is the economical value of attracting the most interesting innovators around the world. And so we'll see more of that. What do you think that language is the biggest hurdle for Korean startups to grow global today? No doubts about it. Is language.
That's the primary, the hurdle for the Korean startup. So if they have this much of the content in English, they can just express small amount of that.
Yeah.
There's big disadvantage as a startup. They cannot express their passion in English that much. So it is another disadvantage. But besides on the language issue, most difficult part, not only the Korean startup, I think, all global world startup has the same problem. They are not good at finding the good target customer. And mostly typical tech startup, they develop from the engineering area. So it's very hard to understanding them, make them understanding how important of the customer.
Yeah. So, and that's a big flip that is hard to make everywhere, right? From an engineer to a marketing person in general, and then in ecosystems that are more mature, like Silicon Valley, there is this ability of being surrounded by people that can actually do marketing. So that's what you look next. One of the things that you guys do is also to track really the advancement of the ecosystem in Korea. You have what is called the Korea Startup Index that you've been doing for a few years. Do you want to give us maybe some of the highlights just by heart of how is that progressing maybe in the last, from the last edition?
Yeah, actually I joined the Born2Global 2015, and my job is a globalization. So my customer is a global ecosystem player, but I don't have any tool. They don't know about the Korea ecosystem. They don't know about the Korean startup company. So that's my starting point. We develop index. I'm trying to imitating like a Silicon Valley joint venture annual report. They produce their good job every year, and we can see insight of the Silicon Valley every year. And then finally we can publish the English version from 2 years ago, and then we're getting some the lots of the call from different area after they read. We find out the last year was a COVID-19 very serious hard time. Even though as a startup, especially software startup, not that much, the depressed. Their performance outcome and the startup engagement is not decreased, a little increase. And the investment wise is, I think, almost double up before COVID-19 and after COVID-19. So it means it's not impact, impact to the COVID-19 to the software-driven company as a startup. But I disappointed. I saw this year's index is we tried to make solve the gender issue. So we survey every year. So male CEO or male founder or female founder, something like that. Still relatively very low portion of the female founders initiative. So for now, 2020, we have about 96% male founders.
Wow. Yeah, so that's not just a Korean issue, right? So that's those statistics that we've been following. They're pretty similar around the world. So it's still a very highly male-dominated industry, and it gets even worse when you move into the investment side. So that's definitely, I think, a global issue that people are starting to address. To finalize, what do you think is the biggest opportunity for Korea in the next few years?
How can I say this? Huge opportunity came from the Korea young people as an engineer or businessman. Now their understanding of the global issue and the global culture is a huge difference from 10 years ago right now. And I don't know, the parent education is a humongous effort. So out of that, about over 60% the young people, they can speak English very freely. Not only the English, but they have another second language minimum. Yeah. So it makes us the totally different technology develop. So 10 years ago, when engineers develop some technology, they're 100% focused on domestic issue.
Yeah.
Now the Korean young people, they see the global issue and they try to develop the technology to solving the problem. So this is a total big changing from 10 years ago right now. And I believe this is a huge opportunity. If the foreign countries, some player work with the Korean, the startup, they can immediately use their technology solving their problem. But 10 years ago, we need some localization process.
Yeah.
So, it's a totally different story, and especially AI and the IoT area is, I think that Korea is a top of top, except certain area of the Silicon Valley. So many the large company approach us to find out the good opportunity to work with that, like a smart city solution or smart farming solution or smart industry is something solution. They're looking for that idea from the Korea.
Yeah. So we look forward to see how that progresses in the following 5 to 10 years. And Jongkap, so thanks a lot for your insights. I think was a very interesting and fruitful conversation. And we hope to see you here in Flesh and Bones. The next time you come to Silicon Valley, we're gonna see you somewhere in this global world. So thanks again. We appreciate it, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure.
Good day.
Bye. Bye.